V, Kefin Lost Kingdom of Sand has the dubious claim of being the only game in the series that never saw a Western release, remake or otherwise, though it did get a PS2 remake in Japan. That made no sense to me as I started up yet another adventure of everyone's favorite red-haired protagonist, Adol. For one, Ys V makes you think from the get-go, since you start off with neither a weapon nor enough cash to buy one. You can go all the way to the next town, dodging enemies, but no luck there. Only by exploring the first town thoroughly will you discover the trigger that leads to your first sword. That's a good start. I hate when JRPGs handhold you from the very first town. Furthermore, Ys V builds on Adol's reputation established over the past 4 adventures, since at the time of release it was the latest entry, canonically speaking. Indeed, Adol arrives on the mysterious continent of Africa as an experienced adventurer, and even if he's not always known by name, he now exhibits the confidence and swagger of a seasoned vet, so NPCs rightfully treat him as someone deserving of respect. It's great character development done in a subtle way, a gradual change from game to game that only dedicated fans would notice. From a nerdy meta perspective, I love that sort of stuff. It ain't like everyone fawns over Adol though, oh no, quite the opposite. In a new twist, most NPCs fear him, often admitting as much, all thanks to a regional legend that warns of a red-headed traveler who will bring destruction to the land. That's pretty cool, though it doesn't end up affecting a whole lot, only serving to add a little flavor to this new locale. Africa, like most East locales, draws inspiration from the real world. I'll let you guess which continent. Surprisingly though, the game doesn't lean much into the traditional African stereotypes like voodoo, shamans, thick jungles, rampant wild beasts, or even unique architecture. Instead, it serves up more of the same vaguely medieval European towns, grassy plains, ancient ruins, and deserts. That may be more accurate to the real Africa, but at the same time it makes Ys V feel bland when it should stand out. I was hoping for some strange, foreign atmosphere that hits a little harder. Maybe not quite Heart of Darkness level, but something to distinguish this entry from previous games. The negatives don't end there. Unfortunately, after an exciting and reasonably challenging opening, Ys V devolves into the most boring, rote gameplay of the series so far. Don't get me wrong, it's still Ys, so I had fun with it throughout, but there's nothing special here. Magic works in a beyond convoluted way. You've got to hold R to charge up a timing meter to 100 before you can even cast a spell. Once you do send out a fireball or whatever, that meter will go down to 90 or so and you'll have to wait and charge it up to 100 again before casting another spell. Yet if you go a while without using magic, this meter also slowly depletes. This makes for a unique mechanic that you must learn to master while adding a bit of tactical maneuvering to the flow of combat. Above all else though, it's a weird mechanic that never feels intuitive while playing. Oh, and this meter's totally separate from your MP, which you can only restore by returning to town. Ultimately, that means I reserve my spells for boss fights, since regular enemies aren't worth wasting MP on. Fair enough, but another major problem with Ys V is that every single combat encounter offers zero challenge whatsoever. Even when you do understand the magic system, it's basically useless, since your standard sword deals more than enough damage to obliterate any enemy with ease. Fans may revere the Ys series for its difficulty, but you wouldn't know that from playing this 5th entry. The total lack of challenge killed much of the vibe for me at any rate. Finally, I want to talk translations. For this game, I played the fan patch from the hard-working people at Eon Genesis, who have yet to let me down. It's nice to get an accurate translation from the original Japanese without much localization or editorializing, at least I assume so. Given that it's a fan sub, I understand it's probably not 100% accurate, but hey, I bet it's still better than most official JRPG translations, so I can excuse the occasional stilted dialogue in exchange for conveying the original intent. Again, presumably, I don't speak Japanese. I'd welcome more of this kind of literal approach from the professional side of things, but that's a whole other can of worms. Another translation point that tickles my fancy is the Eon Genesis team's pick of title, Kefin Lost Kingdom of Sand. To my meager mind, this doesn't sound like a name any English speaker would choose for their work, but at the same time, I can't think of anything better. You could drop the city name and call it Ys V Lost Kingdom of Sand, or Lost Sand Kingdom, or even Lost Desert Kingdom, but all of those feel too generic. I'm fascinated by how titles that work perfectly in Japanese just don't translate to English without losing some of their awesomeness. So yeah, Ys V never saw a Western release, and I get why. Here's to hoping Falcom will do this entry justice with a nice fat modern remake like they did for previous titles to help it stand out and give it more of an identity, more of a fun factor. Lost Kefin doesn't lack for interesting locations, it's the gameplay that could use some extra oomph. Until then, unless you're a wacky series completionist like me, I'd skip this one. Check out any of the other Ys games instead, and you'll probably have a better time. Thanks for watching. Leave a like for that algorithm, let me know in the comments if you've played Ys V and what you thought of it. Subscribe to get my thoughts on the rest of the Ys series as well as other RPGs, and have a blessed day.